Welcome everyone, this is David Smith. We're coming live from Zoho Day 2025 here at Horseshoe Bay Resort. I'm here with Parl Johnson. Parl, welcome, man.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
How's it going?
Good.
So we just had lunch together.
Yeah.
Let's keep it all the way real here.
That was all.
So Paul, so you're with Nuvia Smiles. Tell us a bit about your company and what you do.
Nuvia Smiles is one of the biggest dental implant companies in the country. We have about 45 locations nationwide and growing.
Yeah.
Really well known for providing a what we call a 24-hour turnaround on dental implants, which is a big deal for patients that have to go through that process because it can be painful and long.
Yeah.
And so we pride ourselves on being able to have a 24-hour turnaround on that implant process.
Yeah, yeah.
And providing some really good smiles. It's a cool industry to be in because you're actually changing lives.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun.
Are there any specific industries that you guys frequent a lot, or like athletics or entertainment, or?
As far as what kind of clientele? Or
clientele, yeah.
It's mostly people who just have the medical needs. You know, they've lost a lot of teeth or they've had problems in their mouths. And we specialize in half or full mouth dental implants, not just single tooth implants. So we usually get a lot of people that just are in the medical need of it for whatever reason. And they have a problem, and a lot of them have issues with just smiling even. And so it's pretty fun to be able to bring smiles to people's faces.
The reason why I ask is that I grew up playing sports, athletics, basketball, and throughout my career, there were a lot of teammates, that lost.
Yeah, it'd probably be interesting for us to get into the hockey industry.
Oh, dude, I'm saying,
right.
So, tell us a little bit about your Zoho journey and what challenges you guys were facing that made you choose Zoho in the first place.
That's a pretty broad question, but yeah.
Totally broad.
the company actually chose Zoho, then brought people on to integrate it. So I actually came on right after the decision-making process.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But I come from the world of Salesforce. I was pretty tight with Salesforce, programming in Apex and other things. So I like that. I was good at the Salesforce world. And it was pretty flexible. And they had kind of decided between those two, primarily Salesforce and Zoho. And just the nature of their industry, Salesforce can be extremely costly and difficult to onboard.
Not at all. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, just a little bit. But I liked it. So it's developer friendly. So in my world, I like Salesforce, but completely understood their reasoning and logic to say we're going to go with Zoho because it's more cost effective and it can still do everything we need it to do for much, much less cost and heartache to onboard to it. And I'm like, I agree with that. So I downgraded my dev side and accommodated that and came on board to say, all right, let's integrate. So the only real limitation, again, is sort of on the developer side. It's a little less developer friendly, but it can do everything you need it to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Nuvia is a growing, company, right?
Yeah.
Growing industry. For that matter, I mean, what was sort of the first Zoho product that you were shepherding or had any point to do with?
Our first we had kind of three-pronged priority, and one of them was sort of unexpected. It was an organic recognition of something we could gain from it. So our first priority was analytics. Like, we had to centralize data. We did an analysis on the company and realized we were using around 80 or 90 different digital applications.
Gotcha.
Right, and it's like, because we're just so scattered and siloed. And so getting data from everywhere and centralizing it where it can be analyzed, presented, and used on a day-to-day real-time basis as much as possible. That was mission number one. Zoho Analytics knocked it out of the park. Like, they have daily stand-ups now company-wide where they can review the data and figure out what today's steps need to include. Pretty cool stuff. So we've done a lot of work aggregating data. So that was our first big win, lowest hanging fruit with Zoho. Secondly was start to migrate operations. So every location was kind of autonomous and doing their own thing with their own software. So we needed to start pulling some of those operations centrally so that it was universal to every location and we had the data all in one place.
That's pretty
So
cool.
we started replacing some of the operations. And then the third one that was a little unexpected was migrating all of the Slack users. So they had 500-600 users in Slack. I don't even know what the number was at the time.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's Click over here. right? Like, so we're like, that can be a big win just to
Yeah.
migrate to Click and get us all on the same platform.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult migration process, but it was worth going through it, getting everybody moved over, and now we've got over 2,000 users in Click. And we use Click really dynamically, so it's very event-driven. We
Okay.
push a lot of information to Click to different groups and channels based on events that are occurring, especially sales.
Or like corporate messaging to specific groups.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, hey, something happened today and this was a success or a warning or some data that needs to be audited.
Yeah.
So we use Click quite a bit just for that collaborative effect of making sure people are celebrating and also aware of all the problems that might be happening in real time.
Yeah, so
Pretty fun.
from a wild, broad sea of applications
Yeah.
to a more tidied
Right.
environment.
Right, we didn't say to ourselves, let's take on 40 right now.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And the rest has grown organically. So everybody's like, oh, look, I can use Write or spreadsheets or whatever. And
Yeah.
so organically, we just let people use what they want to in the system.
Yeah. And so how was, in terms of coming from Slack environment, how was the Click usage in terms of the collaboration and communication aspect of it as compared to Slack?
I haven't gotten a lot of feedback from anybody necessarily about whether it works better or worse from a communication tool.
Yeah.
Really, what all they cared about was that we mimicked what event messaging they were getting in
Gotcha.
Slack.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because our sales team primarily, they were basically doing their analytics in Slack. So like they were using some CRM tools and stuff that didn't have sufficient visibility into the data
Yes.
or when things happened, like because there's different logins and different accounts. And,
Yeah.
And so they didn't really have a clean way of aggregating all that information. So they were just like pinging Slack every time an event occurred. And then a manager would go through Slack and start counting them up for the day and put it in a spreadsheet. That was our analytics system.
Wow, yes,
Right?
yes,
And they
yes.
were really addicted to that. So we had to mimic it in Click, which was easy to do with its event system.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we're slowly teaching them that, hey, you could actually just look at this data in analytics. You don't need to count up anything in Click. But those were some of the interesting, like you don't typically hear about people doing their analytics in Slack.
It's like, no.
But they were.
I've heard some funny things in Slack. Coming from, I'm a collaboration now, so I've been covering collaboration communication for years. And I remember when Slack came on, and a lot of it was more marketing events driven focus, and then the sprawl began to happen, and then everyone started to use Slack. The sales folks, because the sales folks, I've never met a salesperson that loved their CRM. Right? They just totally,
Right. It's always a love-hate relationship.
And so Slack became this, this channel that they were just like using, on demand all the time. And so IT guys, as you know, were like, guys, we gotta pull back. This is not secure. And so we began to see a lot of, uses and misuses of Slack in the enterprise for like serious data-intensive stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was another reason Click was a good move for us because we could control, we have a lot of HIPAA compliance issues and other things we have to tend to. And Click was going to be a lot easier to manage that inside of Click than it was Slack.
Exactly.
And remove another one of those little outlier apps that we need to start getting rid of.
Exactly.
So it was a good transition for us.
Yeah, one of the benefits of the Zoho platform as well too is that sort of unified data structure, right? And you can have contextual insights into with analytics into what's going on. So a little more visibility than Slack.
Not here to say any cuss words or anything. But
And so what other products are you using within the Zoho ecosystem?
we have a lot of really customized projects that we're working on right now in Zoho Creator.
Okay.
There's lots of little usage here and there with Learn, and we are using inventory we have a lab. So the lab is what produces the product that gets implanted.
Yeah.
So we have a whole lab side of our business that's using inventory systems for products.
Yeah.
And so we just have this, it's actually kind of fun to watch because we have all this organic stuff popping up.
Yeah.
Where we're not having to, from on high, by edict, say you must use these products. We're just saying, hey, you guys are users, here's the products we've built so far, and feel free to use whatever you like from there. And a lot of people are organically taking on products. So
I love that.
cool.
And especially when you have a platform that I guess can grow with you in a sense, because one thing about especially the Zoho One, the whole unified platform is that there's so many different applications, and sometimes I knock them. Sometimes I'll tell them, guys, I don't think your customers actually know what's there. They'll sometimes stumble on the stuff, but I think they should be a little bit more proactive in terms of how they, message around. Yeah.
I was in one of the panels and said, if you go to every department or every group or organization in your company, and you can find somebody that gets bought in then you really start to see things happening. And somebody who has some of the technical skills or the skills to dig into something and learn it.
Yeah.
And we've had that happen in a couple departments. So we just need to evangelize to that one person in the department.
Absolutely.
And then get them rolling with it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do in every department because everybody's kind of already in their niche and they already
absolutely.
chose their products. And
Yeah.
so culture is one of the battles that comes along with it.
Yeah, and imagine that, and especially coming from, again, the Salesforce background, I come into that situation, how was that sort of culturally having sort of, not sort of change management, but have sort of like adapt, to that environment?
The Salesforce,
with a new product coming in, yeah.
The Salesforce environment I was in was smaller, and so it was it wasn't as a broad of a culture issue, right?
Yeah.
Because there was just a smaller group of people that we had to deal with.
Yeah.
So coming into Nuvia Smiles, where it's just a big, wide net, it's been a lot more interesting to see. The culture's more divided. There's more siloed environments, things like that. And so it's tricky to try and just figure out how you want to control things from on high versus how much you want them to grow organically on their own. Because you do have to have your rule set and your governance from on high that gets implemented.
Yeah,
And so we're just playing that balancing act of figuring out how we roll things out with a good governance program while they're still organically discovering the product. It's been an interesting discovery.
Yeah. So where were you as a tech leader years ago when we used to battle with IT?
Right.
When they're like, no, you will use this. Go forth now and collaborate, right?
And the only way that you can get your way with me is if you send me a case of Mountain Dew. We can work this out, but it's going to cost you. Right?
You got to pay tribute.
That's right.
So the times have changed. I think you're sort of one of those now forward-thinking, tech leaders that, you understand the analytics part, but there's also soft skills sort of part to it where you can, kind of have to sort of be a little more nuanced.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and the technology wasn't really there years ago, right?
This is true.
So with dev guys especially, we're control freaks.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we can always control it. But when you have something like Zoho as a middleman that's already got controls put in place, now you can be less of a control freak and be more of a collaborator.
Yeah.
So I think it really helps. Although nerds are going to be nerds. I mean, they call me the chief nerd at Nuvia for a reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, Parl Johnson is the chief nerd
That's right.
at Nuvia. I love that title, by the way.
They didn't give me one, so I chose
it on
it.
business cards, LinkedIn? Like, is that?
I'm using it wherever I can.
The chief nerd.
That's right. Which really, at the end of the day, the only difference between me and a real nerd is that I got LASIK surgery. So I don't have to wear the glasses anymore.
I love it.
That's about it.
I love it. So, where do we go now?
Sorry, I took us off track.
This is live TV, guys.
That's right.
No. So what next, you guys? I know that you're growing, or actually Zoho's growing organically with you, with your firm. What next, you guys? I mean, this week we had all these announcements around, the Zia AI stuff, the Axe Zia, the Zia AI agent, the agent builder. How much does that impact you? Do you see yourself engaging in those future developments with Zoho?
I'd say that's a playground for us because that's another one of those straddling cultural things where upper management and CEOs and everybody else we got to have AI, but nobody really knows why or how, right? And so that comes down through me, and I have to say, all right, well, I have to get into the weeds to find out how I'm actually going to discover a real AI application.
Exactly.
You can't just say AI is now going to be used.
Right. Like what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So I like the fact that all these products are presented to us, but it's still really new in the industry.
Yeah.
And we're still just trying to get our arms around our own data, let alone, figuring out how to implement real AI products. So it's a playground for us where we're experimenting in really specific use cases. Especially in sales. So we are using AI in sales right now in very specific use cases against phone calls and communications to say, all right, tell us the nature of the sales process with our salespeople and those patients. So that is really nice for us as long as we can come up with a very specific use case. And I think if we do that slice by slice, ultimately we'll start using AI more company-wide.
See, and that's the sort of sober approach that I've been telling my clients about and end users, because I think people sometimes they get caught up in the hype.
Nice buzzword, man.
It's cool, and you
AI,
and everyone now is an overnight AI expert all of a sudden.
Right.
They throw around a couple LLMs and generative AI, and I know what I'm talking about, buddy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, dude,
get on with your bad self.
Yeah, right. Hey man, DeepSeek, open. They see all the
Agentic.
Yeah,
That's right.
I Yes. But they have no idea what's behind that, right?
Right.
And so I think to your point, what's the real world application, the real world impacts that can be had, what are the use cases? And then you have to think through all your regulatory and compliance, standards that you have to go through as well too. So it's not just like, let's just go play. Like, no, we can't just play.
We can't expose ourselves to just some open AI system.
Yeah,
out there,
exactly.
for sure, because our context is getting mixed in with that.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of weird security features we have to consider.
Yeah, can you spell
and
HIPAA?
and we need to understand what context training is, right? Like, all right, so we're a very specific niche industry. How do we create the right context behind our AI to make sure those conversations are right, or that data's right, or whatever? So it's an interesting pathway, which is why I'm calling it playground only right now.
I like that term, and it's funny. That's why I like how Zoho approaches that. I was talking to Raju earlier. I think you guys, this is the perfect storm for you guys, coming off the little deep sea shakeup. I think the whole idea around low cost efficiency is sort of like their ethos.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just kind of fits what you guys are about. But and to your point, their promotion or their sort of prioritization of privacy and that permission layer, I think is going to be key, especially for a specific, vertical industries like yourselves, where privacy and security is key.
Yeah. And they remove a lot of that heartache right out of the gate, which is really nice.
Yeah.
There's layers we don't have to worry about right now just because we're in Zoho.
Absolutely.
So it's really nice.
So what's next, man?
I might have to get LASIK surgery again. I'm not sure. Man. I was just trying to get all of those. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought it was a one fix all.
That's right. Zoho LASIK? Anyone?
Well, I wouldn't put it past Zoho. Like, let's be honest here. Is there anything they don't do? I mean, seriously, like.
Well, I mean, John, our buddy over there at the table, was saying that I'm officially Zoho Glow. And you and I can become Zoho Glow clients.
Yes, the Glow.
So
they're into EVs now. I'm just like, what's happening, guys?
That's right. We're just going to continue in the path that we are. So we have still a lot of operations to take on. We still have sales is still a big nugget for us to figure out.
Yeah.
So there's some really big concepts to consider while we're still being propped up by all the organic onboarding that's just happening naturally. So it's kind of the generic version of our game plan. Awesome.
Parl, thanks so much, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you,
man.
All right. Guys, thanks for joining us. Next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.